to wait for both teams to crouch. So usually that takes long enough. It's the touch and the pause. The thing, and the same thing, once you get it right, it's just amazing how it comes in, because then both teams are waiting for the engage, and it can be a little bit different every time, and then they go whack and they stay steady and they don't push till the ball comes in, and once you get there, the scrums work. But again, I don't think you can ever set, because that's what I've tried to do most of the season, is tell the guys this is going to be the cadence. And sure enough, somebody's trying to beat the cadence. So the less they know about the cadence is almost better.
To a point. I mean, I think to a point with middle ground and I think you're on a good thing, and that's why I put the two breaths sort in. If we can each think that, whatever maybe it's words for somebody, if that works for them, that's good. Having said that, I'd also agree with Mossy that sometimes there's a need to make this longer. Sometimes there's a need to make this longer, based upon what you're seeing in front of you.
Yeah. And realizing that you can only hold them so long, at some point you got to just get up, guys. Yeah. This isn't working.
Yeah. What we throw that the other way. What we definitely don't want to see, and we have seen in some situations, where the referee is going through this and attempting to do this, and the players are just doing how they see fit, and the referee adjusts accordingly and just goes with it. And the scrums aren't a problem. But then the next week, teams go to do the same thing with two different referees who are trying to do this the right way, correct, a better way, you might say, and now their teams have problems. So we do need some set of consistency, but within a little bit of framework of some leeway to that too.
And slower is better.
Slower is better, that's the key.
No doubt. And the other thing that goes in with this, when they do the touch, a lot of people are not really touching, and the next thing that happens is they're not really actually binding.
Correct.
Which leads then to the collapse or somebody going to ground, which is probably the next most common infringement that's occurring. So you've got to be watching for that gap for the engagement, and then checking meticulously the binding of the player. And if you see the player, the loose head, not getting up on the body where he's got to be, if he's up there, the scrums don't go down, and the other prop doesn't go down. That's for real. But you just watch the stuff on TV. It's the binding that causes the guys to go down, in combination with the pressure from the locks, of course, as well. But that's all I would add.
Are we reasonably happy here, in a sense, Spence, without saying this is a hard, fast rule? So that was going to be my next step to that, and seeing as Keith alluded to it, was, once we've called the engagement, we make sure that as guys do engage, and they've got to bind immediately. Not hand on ground and push off, not hand to thigh and come back up. It might be, I've slipped my bind, I can't get it now, I've got to re-grip, that's okay. But we're not talking, they're using something, somehow, to lever themselves into a better position. Thoughts here?
No, I agree with that. If that's
And you're looking for a bent arm, and you're looking for shoulders going below hips. Because once these big guys get their shoulders below the hips, there's only one way they're going to carry on going, and it's not going up, it's going down. And those, I would say, this is probably the most frustrating part of the game, both for players, but also for a lot of spectators. I've heard of people who are watching games on TV, and they're just another collapse. I personally have almost said, oh, bugger this, I'm not watching this game anymore. And it's a real thorn, there's no doubt, at all levels of game.
So to come back to that, you're thinking binding, try to get them longer, and ensure that they're going up on the back. And props, particularly your tight head prop, won't want a longer bind because it puts him at a slight disadvantage, opens him up a little bit. So let's make sure that if they do that, the loose head now isn't going in accordingly, so that they're adjusting appropriately as well. Okay? And in thinking, if we are thinking resets, right, if you're thinking in your own head, you're out there, you're doing this, you're trying to solve problems as you go, if you're getting up to 5 to 6 resets in the game, you're thinking, maybe I could have done something better. If you're getting double digits, something was really going wrong, and we've got to find what that is. Right, so that's based on sort of 20 to 30 scrums. So if you're getting up to maybe a third or more that you're resetting, you've got some issues that we have to solve. And maybe it's player issue, maybe it's you, maybe it's a combination of all those things. So just have that in your thought process. Yeah, okay.
So what are you looking for in the binding then, the way you say, I know straight arm, but...
Well, certainly a lot
Long.
a lot of guys are
Mhm.
getting quite short
Mhm.
on the bind, which means they're in a strong position.
Yeah.
But often that bind will be not on the back.
Mhm.
If they're short enough on the back, we're not so worried. But particularly the tight head will tend to go fairly short,
Mhm.
and it will be quite under the armpit job.
Mhm. Yeah.
But as soon as they go up and over,
Mhm.
they're now opened up.
Mhm.
So that's just a little key for you, little thought process.
So if they have the elbow
You
up
can watch his elbow.
and not, yeah,
His
if you can
elbow's
see his
down.
elbow
Happy.
like it, as opposed to that.
Happy.
Yeah,
Then
That would
you're
be
happy.
okay.
Happy.
Happy, right? But a good thought process to that prop, if you think he's quite short, just ask him to this, and he'll be thinking about it now. That's going to make him do this as well.
Mhm.
The whole process goes together. And then the last part of that, before we go somewhere else, if you speak to one, again, from talking to some of the refs about it, if you speak to one prop, speak to the other prop. For your own sake as a referee. Even if what you're saying to let's say you've said to the first guy, tight head, get your bind longer please, at least now say something to the loose head. Even if it's something that he doesn't need to know. Because now you're making sure both props have been spoken to, and well, he's not just dealing with one. I'm not going to get an advantage. Why am I getting picked on? Getting into their mindset a little bit. Right? Just a little coaching advice.
What about the guys that have a really long bind and they grab onto the waist of the shorts?
Same thing. Come back to that back. Come to the back.
You're not allowed to grab shorts?
Well, I'm not saying you can't. Depends where the shorts are relative on the back. Right? So you got to make.
But I guess if the guy's using a yard the guy out, that's what you're looking for,
Right.
right? If he's just
Right.
giving her one of these, then
Right.
it's pretty much the same as boring.
Yeah, so I'm not saying you
Yeah.
can't. You can't. Because
Okay.
it might be that the back,
Okay.
the shorts.
Yeah, right.
You know.
Yeah, yeah.
Is it on the back, and then what's happening as a result
Yeah,
of that?
okay.
Well,
Right.
it's still going good then.
Right.
And I think also, if you're the AR, you can help the referee out. Maybe not at each specific scrum, but at half time say, look, I'm loose head for blue. This is part of the problem. He's not binding up, when you're on the other side. So you can look in at that as well, and help the guy out, work the team approach on it.
Okay. Again, generic things. We know the emphasis under well, it's always been, but particularly of late, tackle situation is on the tackler. We know that, right? That's our emphasis. There has, and it looks like that's been done relatively well. Relatively well. We always miss some, that's a given, but relatively well. There's some confusion from maybe it's us, maybe it's the clubs, the coaches, the players, around what role this guy can do. And you understand what I mean by this
Mhm.
person who isn't the tackler, they have not gone to ground. So what do they still need to do that we must ensure that they do?
Release.
Come to the gate.
Right. But, okay, so put those two together.
Yeah.
Assuming they're on the right side of the gate, even if they're not, but assuming they are,
Release.
release. Right? Good. There must be space so that the ball carrier can look to play the ball. So think in your own head how you visualize that. That guy stays on their feet. Obviously we dealt with this person first, but even then, this guy's impeding the ball carrier doing what they are allowed to do. So we need to release, show space. Some coaches are, apparently some of the players have said, are trying to get a little clap to say to in your own player's mind, I've released now, I've got my hands together. So have you seen space between the ball carrier, and the guy to tackle